I'd like to start off with a question for the audience, a rhetorical question. What is a leader and what is leadership? Now, many people usually think that being a leader or having leadership typically describes someone who stands in front of people. But in my experience, I find that definition a little incomplete, because for me, leadership and what we understand about it doesn't actually come from the titles or anything like that. It actually just comes from people and their values. Now, people live each day through their own values, and the exchanging of values is how we learn. And for me, the people and values where I learned leadership came from a place that doesn't look very glamorous from the outside, a wrestling room. Now, wrestling is a strange sport. You train with the team each day, but once you step on that mat, you're completely alone. There's no one to substitute for you, no one to hide behind. And if you win, that's on you. And if you lose, that's on you. And that type of environment sort of has a way of exposing a lot of things. And for me, it exposed what it meant to be a leader. Now, I'm currently in 11th grade, and I started wrestling varsity since 9th grade. And I remember one of the earliest moments in my career where I actually lost my first match. And I remember that moment very clearly. I walked off the mat frustrated, and I replayed every mistake I made in my head. And if you've ever failed at something that you deeply care about, you understand this feeling. The feeling where you feel like you didn't do enough. You question everything, your preparation, your own ability, maybe even your own character. And the silence after disappointment can be loud, and for me, I was very upset as I walked into the locker room. And I remember sitting there looking down at my name tag in my locker and feeling like an imposter, like I didn't belong to be on the team. And I remember one of the older wrestlers actually came over to me after, and he talked to me. He didn't give me some cliche speech about how all that matters is that I have fun, or that I should continue working harder. That's not exactly what happened. He just told me what went wrong, what could be fixed, and what I could do in the future. It was very subtle, and it wasn't dramatic, and it definitely wasn't one of those moments in movies where I just turn everything around and I become a better wrestler. I actually got destroyed in my next match, so that's just proof of that. But it probably mattered more to me than I had ever realized, and it only just took time. And at that time, I didn't think much about it, but moments like that subconsciously stayed with me. Every time someone encouraged another wrestler during practice, every time someone sat with another wrestler after a tough match, and every time someone put the team before themselves. And what I did not realize then, which I realize now, is that that was the purest form of leadership. And eventually something changed. I became older, and I stopped becoming the wrestler or the person that depended on other people, but started becoming the person that people looked toward. Suddenly, I saw the same situations happening over and over again. I saw younger wrestlers sitting down, contemplating whether they belong on the team. I saw them struggling through practice because they couldn't perfect a move. And sometimes I saw people doubting themselves. And in those moments, I recognized something, that I had been in the exact same positions as them. So I did what the older wrestlers had once done for me. I did the same thing, and I sat down next to them. I talked through practice, I talked through their matches, and sometimes we just shared our frustration for the sport. And eventually, I sort of changed my complete thinking about what it meant to be a leader. And it's that leadership is not something you create, but it's something that you inherit. Think about it. None of us have ever developed in isolation. Someone teaches us how to improve. Someone teaches us how to encourage ourselves when we doubt ourselves. And someone sets an example that we try to follow. And without those people, most of us would quit much earlier than we do now. And once you realize that, leadership begins to feel less like recognition, but more like a responsibility. Because if someone once stood with you during your hardest moments, the only thing you could logically do is do the same thing for someone else during theirs. One of the toughest moments for me came after, in my 10th grade year, where I was wrestling one of the most important final matches of my life. And the outcome was very sad for me as I lost that match. And I remember that moment very clearly because I felt like I had let a lot of people down. My whole team was out there watching me, And I felt like as a leader, I should lead by example. And I sort of just questioned my leadership at that point because I thought that leaders were supposed to lead by winning. And after that loss, something very unexpected happened. Two of the younger wrestlers actually came over to talk to me. And they didn't mention the result of the match, but rather they talked about the practices we had together, the lessons I had taught them, and the help I gave them so that they could end up placing in the tournament later on. And for me, that was sort of a moment where I had to rethink a lot of things, and because I was sort of really outstanding by the impact I had made subconsciously without knowing. And I sort of realized in that moment that leadership isn't measured by your wins, but it's measured by what you have left behind. And what you leave behind is influence. It's the habits people pick up from you, and it is the mindset that they adopt. The way you treat others, or the way that they treat others because of the way you treated them. In other words, leadership isn't about standing above people, but it's rather creating people that can eventually stand on their own. And this idea exists far beyond sports. If you think about your life and the people that shaped it, whether that be a teacher, a friend, a parent, or a mentor, you'll probably notice something, that they didn't just give you information. Rather, they helped give you confidence, gave you perspective, and maybe they even gave you belief in moments where you might have not had it yourself. And the chances are you carry pieces of their leadership with you now today. And that's why I've come to believe something simple but very powerful. That leadership is a chain. Each generation inherits it from the one before them, and they pass it forward through their actions. And when you help someone grow, you're not just helping that person, but rather you're shaping how they will treat the people that come after them. And that impact could travel much further than you'll ever see. It just takes time. So when I think about leadership today, I don't think about standing in front of people or a blank title used for bragging rights. I think about the people who stood beside me when I needed them most, and I think about the responsibility that comes with that. Because every one of us will eventually reach a point where we meet someone younger, less experienced, or maybe even less confident, who will be watching how we respond, how we handle failure, watching if we push through and when faced with adversity or step back. It is very important to think and respond based off of those thoughts. And in that moment, whether we realize it or not, we are deciding what kind of leadership we pass on. Leadership is not something we keep. It is something we carry and something we inherit. Now, I would like to add one last point that you guys would probably take home today. And it's that leadership is something we pass forward, trusting that those who come after us will do the same as we've once done. Thank you.